November 23rd. The rain over the Marina Bay Circuit was not a weather event. It was a curtain of heavy, suffocating velvet dropping over the neon city. The humidity was a physical weight, pressing against the floor-to-ceiling glass of the penthouse suite like a sweaty palm. Dante stood by the window, watching the track below. It was a black river of asphalt, slick and treacherous, reflecting the fractured lights of the skyscrapers. Tomorrow, that asphalt would demand everything. It would demand precision. It would demand blood. And it would demand the kind of speed that turned human vision into a blurred tunnel of survival. But tonight, the silence in the room was louder than any engine. Dante felt the tension in his own body like a coiled spring in a cheap watch, wound too tight, threatening to snap and send gears flying across the room. He was 32 years old. In this sport, that was ancient. He was a monument to discipline, a man who had excised fear from his nervous system with the precision of a surgeon. He lived his life in milliseconds, calculating apexes and breaking points, never allowing emotion to drag on his aerodynamics. Yet, the reflection in the glass stared back at him with eyes that betrayed the lie. He wasn't calm. He was vibrating. A low-frequency hum of anxiety rattled his ribcage. It wasn't the race that terrified him. He knew the car. He knew the physics of grip and downforce. No, it was him. Kai. The name alone felt like a spark plug misfiring in Dante's chest. Kai, with his reckless grin and his driving style that bordered on a death wish. Kai, who drove like he was trying to outrun a ghost. The 10 months they had circled each other on the tarmac, trading paint at 200 miles per hour, a violent waltz of carbon fiber and ego. The media called it a rivalry. Dante knew it was something far more dangerous. It was an obsession, an infection. Tonight was supposed to be about focus, about visualization, but the air in the suite felt charged, ionized, as if a storm were gathering inside the walls. Dante took a sip of water, but his throat remained dry. He checked his watch. 11 o'clock. The knock on the door was inevitable. He had not invited him, yet he had been waiting for him since the moment the checkered flag dropped on qualifying. Fate, it seemed, was tired of waiting for the green light. The knock on the door was not a request. It was a rhythmic assertion of presence. 3 sharp raps, spaced with a confidence that bordered on arrogance. Dante did not move immediately. He let the sound hang in the humid air, counting the seconds. 1, 2, 3. He knew who it was. The logic of the situation dictated he should ignore it. He needed sleep. He needed the sterile isolation of his routine. But his body was already moving, betraying his mind with a traitorous fluidity. He crossed the plush carpet, his pulse thudding against his eardrums like the bass line of a distant club. He opened the door. Kai stood in the hallway, leaning against the doorframe as if gravity worked differently for him than for the rest of the species. He was soaked. The Singapore rain had plastered his team kit to his frame, outlining the lean, wiry muscle of a predator built for speed. Water dripped from the ends of his bleached hair, running down the sharp line of his jaw and disappearing into the collar of his shirt. He shouldn't have been beautiful. He was bruised under the eyes, exhausted, vibrating with a frantic, restless energy that usually made Dante's teeth ache. But in the harsh hallway light, he looked like a raw nerve exposed to the elements. "You're awake," Kai said. His voice was a scratchy tenor, rough from shouting over radio comms and engines. He didn't smile. He just stared, his eyes dark and dilated, scanning Dante's face for a crack in the armor. "It is 11 o'clock, Kai," Dante replied, his voice level, a cool stream of water against Kai's fire. He didn't step back. He held the threshold like a border guard. Some of us rely on rest, not adrenaline and caffeine. And yet, Kai pushed off the doorframe, stepping forward. The smell of him hit Dante, a complex cocktail of ozone, rain, stale champagne from the podium ceremony he'd missed, and the sharp chemical tang of high-octane fuel. You are standing here, talking to me. Kai didn't wait for an invitation. He brushed past Dante, entering the sanctuary of the suite. The contact was brief, a shoulder grazing a shoulder, but it sent a jolt of static electricity through Dante's system that felt like a localized lightning strike. Dante closed the door, shutting out the world, locking the tiger in the cage with him. He turned to watch Kai prowl the room. Kai moved with a restless agitation, touching things, the back of the sofa, the glass of the window, the bottle of water on the table, marking the territory with his fingerprints. You almost put me in the wall today, Dante said. He kept his distance, staying near the door, maintaining a tactical gap. Turn 4. You braked too late. If I hadn't yielded, we would both be carbon fiber confetti. Kai stopped pacing. He turned slowly, a smirk finally cutting through his exhaustion. It wasn't a nice smile. It was sharp, dangerous. But you did yield, Kai said softly. He walked toward Dante, closing the gap. That's your problem, Dante. You calculate the risk. You do the math. You saw the crash before it happened, so you backed off. I saw a foolish maneuver from a child who thinks immortality is a birthright, Dante snapped. The anger finally flared, hot and bright. It's not racing, Kai. It's gambling. It's winning, Kai countered. He was close now. Too close. 3 feet. 2. I took the pole position. You took second. The math doesn't lie. Dante looked at him. Really looked at him. Up close, he could see the tremors in Kai's hands. The bravado was a shell. Underneath, Kai was terrified. Not of the car, but of something else. He was looking at Dante not like a rival, but like a drowning man looking at the shore. Why are you here? Dante asked. The question came out quieter than he intended. Kai's smirk faltered. He looked down at his own hands, then back up, his gaze stripping Dante bare. Because the silence in my room was too loud, Kai confessed, the words rushing out. Because when I close my eyes, I still see the wall at 200 miles an hour. And because, he paused, his throat bobbing, because you are the only one who knows what it sounds like when the engine stops. The air between them thickened, becoming viscous. It was no longer about the race. The context of the track evaporated. It was just 2 men, isolated in a glass tower above a sleeping city, bound by a gravitational pull that defied the laws of physics. Dante felt his resolve eroding. The logical part of his brain was screaming danger, flashing red warning lights on his mental dashboard. But the rest of him was leaning in. You are a distraction, Kai, Dante whispered. It was a weak defense, and they both knew it. I know, Kai murmured, stepping into the red zone. I am the chaotic variable in your perfect equation. But tell me, Dante, aren't you bored of always getting the math right? Dante didn't answer with words. He answered with physics. The distance between them, which had been a heavily guarded, demilitarized zone for the entire season, collapsed. Dante reached out, grabbing the lapels of Kai's soaked jacket. He didn't pull Kai toward him. He slammed him back against the heavy oak door. The sound was a dull thud, swallowed immediately by the room's plush acoustics, but the impact vibrated through Dante's arms. I am not bored, Dante hissed, his voice dropping to a register that was pure, unfiltered command. I am terrified, because you make me want to drive with my eyes closed. Kai didn't flinch. He gasped, a sharp intake of breath that sounded like a drowning man breaking the surface. His hands flew up, not to push Dante away, but to claw at him. He gripped Dante's forearms, his fingers digging into the muscle, desperate for an anchor. "Then close them," Kai challenged, tilting his chin up, exposing the vulnerable line of his throat. "Do it." Dante kissed him. It wasn't a romance novel kiss. It was a collision of high-velocity objects. It was the screech of tires on asphalt, the smell of burning rubber, the absolute crushing force of G-force hitting the chest. It tasted of rainwater and aggression. Dante's control, that legendary iron discipline that the media praised, shattered like tempered glass. He devoured Kai, pouring 10 months of frustration, envy, and suppressed desire into the contact. Kai made a sound, half groan, half sob, and melted. The tension that held him upright vanished, and he became dead weight against the door, sliding down until Dante's body was the only thing pinning him up. Kai's hands moved frantically, tangling in Dante's hair, pulling him closer, trying to merge their skeletons. They stumbled away from the door, a clumsy, tangled mess of limbs, knocking over a side table. Neither cared. The bottle of water hit the floor and rolled away, ignored. Dante pushed Kai down onto the expansive leather sofa. The leather creaked under their combined weight. "Wait!" Dante pulled back, breathing hard, his chest heaving. He needed oxygen. He needed to recalibrate. "Kai, look at me." Kai lay there, sprawled and ruined, his chest rising and falling in a frantic rhythm. His lips were swollen, red and bitten, but his eyes, the manic energy was gone. In its place was a naked, terrifying vulnerability. "Don't stop," Kai whispered, his voice trembling. "If you stop, the noise comes back." "What noise?" Dante asked, brushing a wet strand of hair from Kai's forehead. His hand was shaking. The surgeon was shaking. "The doubt," Kai confessed, closing his eyes. "The voice that says I'm a fraud, that I'm just a kid with a heavy foot and a rich father. That tomorrow I'm going to miss the apex in turn 7 and kill us both." He opened his eyes, staring up at Dante with a devastating honesty. "I drive fast, because if I slow down, the fear catches up." Dante felt a crack in his own heart. He had spent the season hating Kai's fearlessness, never realizing it was just panic moving at 200 miles per hour. "You aren't a fraud," Dante said firmly. He placed his hand over Kai's heart. He could feel the organ hammering against the ribcage, frantic as a bird in a cage. "You are a nightmare on the track. You are precise in your chaos. That is why I hate you, because you are better than me when you don't think." "I'm not better," Kai said, reaching up to trace the line of Dante's jaw. His fingers were cold, but his touch burned. "I'm just louder. You are the silence. I need the silence, Dante. Please." The admission hung in the air, heavy and irrevocable. This wasn't just lust. It was a symbiotic need. Kai needed an anchor. Dante needed a spark. Dante lowered himself back down, but the aggression was gone. He kissed Kai again, slow and deep, a transfer of gravity. He kissed him like he was studying the aerodynamics of his mouth, learning the curve of his lips. He peeled the wet jacket off Kai's shoulders, the friction of the fabric loud in the quiet room. Skin met skin. Dante's hands, usually steady on the steering wheel, mapped the landscape of Kai's torso. The scars, the shivering muscle, the heat radiating from him like an engine after a qualifying lap. "I won't let you crash," Dante murmured against Kai's neck, feeling the pulse jump under his lips. "You can't promise that," Kai gasped, arching into the touch. "I can," Dante promised, a dangerous vow. "Because I'll be right behind you, watching your line." For the next hour, the storm outside ceased to exist. The only weather was the heat between them, the friction of bodies seeking warmth, the desperate hushed whispers of two rivals dismantling their defenses. It was a different kind of race, one where the goal wasn't to finish first, but to finish together. But as Dante lay there afterwards, holding Kai's sleeping form against his chest, watching the city lights blur through the rain-streaked window, a cold realization settled in his gut. They had crossed a line. The track didn't forgive emotion. Tomorrow, when the lights went out, he wouldn't just be racing a rival. He would be racing the man he was currently holding. And in Formula One, hesitation was a death sentence. By saving Kai from the noise, Dante might have just destroyed his own edge. The world was no longer a room. It was a tunnel of floodlights and fury. Lap 58 of 61. The Singapore Grand Prix had dissolved into a war of attrition. The track was a treacherous patchwork of drying asphalt and lethal puddles. The humidity inside the cockpit was 100%. Dante was drowning in his own sweat, his fireproof suit a second skin of boiling water. Through the narrow slit of his visor, the only thing that existed was the blinking red rain light of the car ahead. Kai. They were in a league of their own, 10 seconds clear of the rest of the field. It was a dogfight. Kai was driving like a man possessed, sliding the rear end of his car through the corners with a terrifying, balletic violence. He was fast, impossibly fast, but he was ragged. His tires were screaming, the rubber graining, giving up the ghost. "Gap is 0.4, Dante's engineer crackled over the radio, the voice tinny and distant. "You are in the DRS window. This is it, Dante. Attack now." Dante didn't reply. He didn't have the breath. His neck muscles screamed against the 5 Gs of braking into turn 7. He was the surgeon again, dissecting Kai's lead, millimeter by millimeter. He saw the mistake before it happened. It was turn 13, the hairpin. Kai was pushing too hard. He was desperate to break the toe. Dante saw the rear of Kai's car twitch, a microscopic loss of traction on a damp patch of curb. It was the noise Kai had talked about, the panic. Physics dictated the next second. Kai was going to slide wide. If Dante held his line, the racing line, the correct line, he would undercut Kai. He would slam the door shut. Kai's car, currently losing grip, would have nowhere to go but into the barrier or into the side of Dante's chassis. It would be a collision, a racing incident. And Dante, with the inside line, would likely survive it and take the championship. It was the move of a champion. It was the move the team expected. It was the move Dante had trained for 20 years to make. Kill or be killed. Time dilated. The roar of the V6 hybrid engine faded into a dull hum. Dante saw the wall. He saw the speed. He saw Kai's hands fighting the steering wheel, correcting a slide that was already terminal. If I take the apex, he crashes. The thought wasn't a calculation. It was a vision. The image of Kai, broken, silent, the fire in his eyes extinguished, flashed across Dante's mind, brighter than the floodlights. The memory of the hotel room, the trembling confession, the warmth of Kai's skin against his own. It crashed into the logic of the race and shattered it. Dante made his choice. He didn't turn in. He lifted his foot off the throttle. Just 10%, just for a heartbeat. He widened his steering angle, surrendering the apex. He opened the door. He gave Kai the space that physics said he didn't deserve, but that love demanded he have. Kai's car slid wide, tires smoking, dancing on the edge of disaster. But because Dante wasn't there to pin him, Kai had the room to catch the slide. The rear snapped back into line. Kai survived the corner. "What are you doing?" the radio screamed in Dante's ear. "You had him! You gave up the line!" Dante accelerated again, chasing Kai down the straight, but the moment was gone. The gap opened up. 1 second, 2 seconds. Dante didn't feel the bitterness of defeat. He felt a strange, light-headed clarity. The vibration in his hands wasn't fear anymore. It was peace. He had looked at the trophy,
And then he had looked at the man, and he had realized that one was gold-plated brass, and the other was the only thing that made the silence bearable. They crossed the finish line in that order, Kai first, Dante second. The fireworks exploded over the marina, a meaningless display of color against the darkness. Parc Ferme, the holding area for the cars, was a chaotic scene of mechanics, cameras, and officials.
Dante climbed out of his cockpit, his legs shaking from exhaustion. He pulled off his helmet, the humid night air hitting his face like a physical blow. Kai was already out of his car. He was standing on the nose of his machine, arms raised, screaming in triumph. But then he stopped. He looked down. He saw Dante. Kai jumped down, ignoring his team, ignoring the cameras thrust into his face. He walked straight to Dante. He didn't look like a winner. He looked confused. He looked shaken. He grabbed Dante by the shoulders, his grip bruising even through the thick racing suit. They were surrounded by millions of dollars of equipment and a billion eyes watching on TV, but they were alone. "You lifted," Kai gasped, his chest heaving, sweat dripping from his nose. "Turn 13. I felt it. You lifted." "You lost the rear," Dante said calmly, wiping soot from his face. "You needed the room." "You could have won," Kai shouted, his voice cracking. "You had the inside. You could have taken the title. Why did you give it to me?" Dante looked at him. He saw the adrenaline fading, replaced by the dawn of understanding. He saw Kai realize that he hadn't just won a race, he had been saved. "Because I promised," Dante said, his voice low, audible only to them amidst the roar of the crowd. "I told you I would watch your line." Kai stared at him, stunned. His arrogance, his defenses, his fear, it all washed away. He looked at Dante with a mixture of awe and terrifying devotion. "You idiot," Kai choked out, a laugh bubbling up through tears. "You absolute, sentimental idiot." "Congratulations, champion," Dante said, offering a hand. Kai didn't take the hand. He pulled Dante into a hug, burying his face in Dante's neck, hidden from the cameras by the angle of their bodies. It looked like a sportsmanlike embrace to the world, but Dante felt Kai's lips press a desperate, secret kiss against the fireproof fabric of his collar. "I love you," Kai whispered into the noise. Dante closed his eyes, holding the new world champion in his arms. He had lost the race, but he had won the war against the silence. "I know," Dante whispered back. February 10th. The morning light over Monaco was not harsh like the track floodlights. It was soft, diffuse, a pale gold spilling over the Mediterranean. Dante sat on the terrace of the apartment, a cup of espresso cooling in his hand. The silence here was different. It wasn't the terrified silence of a hotel room before a race, nor the deafening silence of a crash. It was a rich, comfortable silence. The sound of the sea below was a steady rhythm, a metronome that required no calibration. He heard the sliding glass door open behind him. He didn't turn. He knew the footsteps. Bare feet on warm stone. Kai emerged into the sunlight, wearing nothing but sweatpants and a sleep-must expression. The jagged, nervous energy that had defined him all last season was gone. In its place was a languid grace. He looked like a cat stretching in a sunbeam, still dangerous perhaps, but content. He sat on the edge of Dante's lounge chair, stealing the espresso without asking. He took a sip, grimaced at the bitterness, and handed it back. "The press is still analyzing the telemetry from Singapore," Kai said, his voice raspy with sleep. "They are calling it a mysterious mechanical anomaly. They think your power unit clipped." Dante smiled, looking out at the yachts bobbing in the harbor. "Let them analyze. The data will never show them what happened inside the helmet." "You gave up a world championship," Kai murmured, looking down at his hands. The hands that now held the trophy, but more importantly, held Dante's trust. Does it haunt you? The math of it? Dante reached out, resting his hand on the back of Kai's neck. He felt the steady pulse there. No racing, no panic, just life. The math changed, Dante said simply. I used to calculate victory by the gap to the car behind me. Now, he ran his thumb over the nape of Kai's neck, grounding him. Now I calculated by how soundly you sleep. Kai leaned into the touch, closing his eyes against the sun. You're getting soft, old man. And you are getting disciplined, Dante countered. I saw your simulator times yesterday. You were consistent, boring even. Kai laughed, a bright sound that mixed with the cry of the seagulls. I learned from the best, or the worst, depending on who you ask. They sat there for a long time as the city woke up below them. The new season was weeks away. The circus would start again. The cameras, the noise, the impossible pressure. They would be rivals again. They would wear different colors. They would fight for the same piece of asphalt at 200 miles per hour. But the fear was gone. Dante looked at Kai, backlit by the morning sun, and realized that for the first time in his career, he wasn't looking at the finish line. He was looking at the horizon. Ready for Melbourne? Kai asked, opening his eyes. The competitive spark was there, but it was playful now, not desperate. Always, Dante replied, leaning in to kiss him, a slow, coffee-tasting seal on their private contract. Just remember to check your mirrors. Why? Kai grinned against his lips. Because, Dante whispered, I'll be right there.